When the United States entered World War II, it didn't just bring soldiers, it brought an industrial tidal wave. From the beaches of Normandy to the volcanic caves of Iwo Jima, the American GI was the best-equipped fighter in history. But what exactly was in their hands? Today, we are breaking down the massive arsenal, from the rifles that ruled the trenches to the flamethrowers that cleared the darkness. This is the steel that forged victory. Let's start with the backbone of the infantry. At a time when most of the world was still manually cycling bolts, American soldiers carried the M1 Garand. General George S. Patton called it the greatest battle implement ever devised. This semi-automatic powerhouse gave the US a massive advantage, allowing a soldier to fire 8.306 rounds as fast as they could pull the trigger, and that iconic ping when the clip ejected. It's the sound of history. But the Garand was heavy. For support troops and paratroopers, the M1 carbine was the answer. It was light, handy, and fired a smaller .30 caliber cartridge. In fact, it was so popular that it was produced in greater numbers than the Garand itself. For the elite airborne, the M1A1 paratrooper version featured a folding wire stock built specifically to be strapped to a chest during a jump. Of course, old legends never die. The M1903 Springfield, a bolt-action relic from World War I, stayed in the fight. While slower, its incredible accuracy made it the perfect platform for the M1903A4 sniper system, bringing precision to the chaos of the battlefield. We even saw the M1917 Enfield dusted off for training, and the quirky M1941 Johnson rifle, which allowed soldiers to top off its unique rotary magazine while the bolt was still closed. When the fighting moved into the narrow streets of Europe or the thick jungles of the Pacific, soldiers needed something that spat lead. Enter the Thompson M1A1, the legendary Tommy gun, to save time in the factory. The military stripped away the fancy cooling fins of the 1928 model, creating a rugged, simplified workhorse that was devastating at close range. But the Thompson was expensive. The army needed something cheaper, much cheaper. The result was the M3 grease gun, made of stamped steel and looking more like a mechanic's tool than a weapon. It cost a fraction of the price. Its slow rate of fire made it incredibly easy to control, making it a favorite among tank crews. However, not every design was a hit. The M50 Rising, used by the Marines, was accurate on the range, but a nightmare in the field. The sand and mud of the Pacific caused it to jam constantly, forcing troops to manually ram the action closed in the heat of battle. Asterisk: if your primary weapon failed, you prayed you had an M1911A1 on your hip. This .45 caliber semi-automatic is perhaps the most legendary pistol ever made. Rugged, powerful, and nearly indestructible, it served as the standard sidearm for over 70 years. But the war required millions of guns. The S&W Victory model and the big-framed Colt M1917 revolver were brought in to arm aircrews and naval personnel. However, the most fascinating sidearm was the high-standard HDM. This .22 caliber pistol had a built-in suppressor. It was so quiet that the head of the OSS once fired it into a sandbag in the Oval Office while President Roosevelt's back was turned. The president didn't hear a thing. And then there was the FP-45 Elevator, a crude single-shot pistol that cost just $2 to make. Millions were dropped behind enemy lines, intended for resistance fighters to use at point-blank range to take a better weapon from an enemy guard. If the rifle was the squad's heart, the M1918A2 Bar Browning automatic rifle was its muscle. It bridged the gap between a rifle and a machine gun, providing mobile fire support. But when the lines had to be held, the M1919A4 took the stage. Mounted on a tripod, this air-cooled medium machine gun provided the base of fire for every infantry assault. And we can't forget the heavyweight champion, the M2HB .50 caliber, known as Madus. This beast could shred light vehicles and aircraft with ease. Its design was so perfect that it is still in active service today, over 80 years later. Finally, we look at the weapons that broke the enemy's will. The M2 flamethrower was the most feared sight in the Pacific, spewing liquid fire into caves to flush out entrenched Dutchmen. Meanwhile, the M1A1 bazooka gave a single soldier the power of a mobile cannon, allowing them to take on massive tanks, from the MK2 Pineapple grenade to the Bangalore torpedoes that cleared the wire on D. These explosives ensured that no obstacles stayed in the way of the American advance. The US World War II arsenal was a blend of brute force and brilliant engineering. These weapons didn't just win a war, they changed the world forever. Which of these iconic pieces of history do you think was the most important? Let us know in the comments below. Asterisk: if you enjoyed this deep dive into military history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Until next time, stay tuned to the history of the battlefield.